You can have everything, but not everything at the same time.
Your brain is there to keep them alive. I'm just trying to keep this little human alive.
It's like, no, you got out the door late. It's really a you problem, not a me
Oh, yeah.
problem.
I had divorce. I had debt. I have abusive, traumatic relationship.
You just make a new plan and new goals. That's simple. And then he was like, go find your tribe. You don't have to do it alone.
Hey, Queen. Welcome to the She Elevates podcast. I'm your host, Liz Rankin, your favorite elevation bestie who's been through it, healed from it, and came back stronger with a mission. This podcast is your safe space and soul sanctuary where we talk real about relationships, motherhood, money, mindset, and everything in between. So if you're ready to reclaim your power, reconnect your purpose, and rewrite your story, let's get into it. For the mom listening who feels like she's trying to build a business, raise kids, what kind of advice do you have?
Well, you can have everything, but not everything at the same time. So it really depends on what stage that you are at in your life. For instance, if you're in the toddler stage of your children, which I always say, especially to moms going through that is a very stressful, fun, cutest stage ever, but very stressful stage as a mom. So that might not be the best time for you to decide that all of your focus or your main focus is on starting a business or running a business at that point. That may be the time where you want to start the planning, the brainstorming, as well as, what you're going to do when they end up starting school, and that frees up a little more time for you, or at least a little more focus. But yeah, I tell people you can have it not all at the same time. You have to pick where your focus and your energy is going to be at that stage of your life.
Very good point. And I totally hear that too, because now all of my kids are in elementary school and I really didn't have that space to be able to create and think as an entrepreneur, although I wanted it really badly while my kids were little. Your brain is there to keep them alive. Like, I'm just trying to keep this little human alive. This is my first go around having kids. Like, how do I juggle everything? And as much as I wanted a business, you're absolutely right. You have to focus on what is going on in your life at the time. And I even found that with like people who are working the 9 to 5, having that life balance. Like if you have young kids at home, it makes sense if you can't juggle work, business, 9 to 5. Even part-time job is a struggle, especially if the mom is taking over all of the duties of just being a mom. So what did that kind of look like for you? Did you have support? Did you wait to launch the business? Did you already have the business established? What did that kind
So
of look like?
I mean, obviously, if you have the best case scenario is to have a great support system, to have family and a partner and friends that are your cheerleader. But not everybody has that. I do recommend go and find what I call your tribe of people, and whatever combination that is, that are your cheerleaders. That is huge, to be able to, throw ideas off, and even when you're having a mental breakdown, to call them and say, okay, I need someone to boost me up. I think that's important. I had a very supportive husband. I had a very supportive friend group. And I found that if they weren't supportive, that I very quickly was like, they're not my friend. If somebody is tearing you down, then they should not be in your circle. And I found that to be very important. But when my youngest ones now are in middle school, but when they were super young, I was working full time. And since I had my own business, it did give me that flexibility, but it was very stressful. And I wasn't looking back on it as much as I was focused on the business. I was still having to go get them. One of them was sick, because as the woman, a lot of times, even though I had an extremely supportive husband, he cooked, he cleaned, he would go get the kids. And we had that ability to do that because we worked together. He's also an attorney. But that being said, there has to be one person that's steering the one ship, meaning the business, and that is the focus. And one, when a child is sick, who's going to stay at home? And I think that the important part is balance. The important part is also there has to be a plan. Although my husband would say, no, we don't need a plan because, he's much more like be in the moment. But
Yeah.
I think that you have to have a plan. And I'm a big proponent of lists. These are the lists. I had calendars, especially when they were little. They had their calendar, my work calendar,
Mhm.
the combined calendar, to be able to get all of that in there. So it is organization as well. And I also had a team. I mean, I had someone who worked full time to watch the kids. I had someone that was coming in and cleaning the house. So
Mhm.
I was never. I always say that it was a well orchestrated chaos when they were little. I never pretended like I was some super mom and everything was going fine. And I hate when women do that
Yeah.
because I
Yeah.
think it's not authentic. And I think it really brings down and makes other women feel horrible about themselves. I was very clear. This is chaos. It is organized because I have organized it, but I have a whole orchestra of people that are helping me with this. I am not going home and after, being lawyering, I'm not going home and now scrubbing my floors and doing, laundry. I was putting away some of the laundry, obviously, but I
Yeah.
wasn't going home and doing that. And to fake like you are just makes other people feel horrible. But that being said, I was not starting multiple businesses. I was not doing media appearances at that point. I had pulled back on some of my networking. So I had really focused in on parenting and running one law firm and running one law firm. Didn't have like I'm doing now multiple things because there's just not enough mind space. That's what we really need to get to. It's not even time of the day. Your mind cannot juggle that many things at
Yeah.
one time.
Yeah, I always say the idea of multitasking in our generation was like oversold to us. I remember going like on interviews and they're like, "Can you multitask?" And now it's like that's actually backfiring for people who are trying to multitask too many different things because you're working on one and then you just stop in the middle to work on the next thing. Like now you've lost your train of thought. When you go back to this, you have to restart. Like, can you imagine writing a book and you're like, just stop after chapter one and then go do this other stuff? Like, now you have to refocus. So it's funny. And I always think about like these lies we have been sold to in our childhoods and as we're being raised at no fault of like our parents, but the society has just made it
Mhm.
seem like mothers have to have it together and you have to be able to provide, but also like now we're also one of the first generations like be fully fledged in the workforce and providing for your family, and households can't even afford one income these days. So
Mhm.
the whole landscape has changed for us, and like you said, the blame, the guilt that women feel for feeling like they have to figure all of this out. I'll admit my life is chaos as well all the time. This morning I was like, kids just go, I can literally watch them go to school and I'm like, just walk to school. Mom does not have the energy to take you there, the 20 steps.
Horrible. I mean, even when they're older, it's crazy. You're trying to get them out. It's like herding cats, trying to get them out the door.
Ooh.
And then, I mean, and that's they're getting themselves dressed. I mean, when they're in those younger years where you have to get them dressed and you're brushing the hair and making the lunch and trying to get them out the door. I mean, that's even, but it doesn't, I mean, I'll be honest with moms, when they get older, yeah, it's a little easier, but you're still herding cats, getting them out because they don't want to get up and they're not
Yeah.
moving. And then they're like in the car yelling at you because they're going to be late. It's like, no, you got out the door late. It's really a you problem, not a me
Oh yeah.
problem.
Oh yeah, absolutely. My what preteen 11-year-old, almost 12-year-old, she's just wants to take it easy and relax. And I get that. Like I also, I fight the school mentality versus the more like free living and get up on your own terms type thing. Like it's a battle for me because I know there's a lot of conditioning and sit still and they got to be in a chair for 6 hours or crisscross applesauce, I think is the worst idea ever. Like my hips will not even sit in that position for 2 minutes and they have to sit there for a whole hour. But I'm like, no, you're just going to do it. Like go outside, get some fresh air real quick. But yeah, I don't put the pressure on myself. Like if we're really having a bad morning, I'm just like, we'll be late today. It's fine. If I don't have something scheduled, like a podcast,
Hmm.
I'll be like, well, we'll be late today. It's fine. Give yourself some grace. Like so
I think, yeah, I think that is you bring up a very good point. I think we're harder on ourselves, and sometimes I think I heard somebody, and I don't remember what celebrity said this, and they were like, "Is it going to matter in 5 years, or is it even going to matter in 5 minutes or 5 hours?" And they're like, if you start thinking of it that way, and it's true, is it if they're late, is it going to really matter? It'll probably matter in 5 minutes, but it's not going to matter in 5 hours. And it surely isn't going to matter in 5 years. And I think that's a great way of thinking. And I try to bring myself, I wish I remember who said that, back to that as I'm getting like, you can feel your blood pressure rising. I don't even have high
Exactly.
blood pressure. Like you're getting stressed about it. And you're like, I have to tell a story about rushing in the morning. So
Yeah.
I was rushing and it was out of ordinary. The situation, I had a meeting and I had to be there at the same time school started. They had to get there early and
Mm.
they were dragging my daughters who are, like I said, they're 13 and 14 and they were dragging their feet. And so I had to switch cars with my husband and his car is in the garage. I don't like parking. So I
Yeah.
get in his car and my daughter's like, "Oh, my youngest, oh, I have shoes in the back seat. I forgot my socks." Now she opens the door, and my focus, of course, is as a mom because this terrifies me, is that she's not behind the car as I'm driving out of the garage, and
Cool.
she's made it to the door. But I don't look to see because I'm in a rush that the door's open, the door of my husband's car. And I was like, this is when I thought about it afterwards, he wasn't happy. When I thought it, he was like, really? Like he didn't look to see if the door was open. But I thought about it afterwards and I was like, this was so ridiculous because yeah, it would have been horrible. I was the chair of a committee for the Florida bar. That's what the meeting was. It would have been horrible if I was late, right? But like they couldn't wait 5 minutes. And I'm like, I'm sorry, they got delayed. In the scheme of things, if I would have just been like, okay, we're going to be 5 minutes late. And it's really, everybody's going to understand. And if they don't, who really cares?
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
That all happened because I got rushed. I got in the moment. I got flustered
Yeah.
instead of saying, like you just said, you're going to be late. Like if you're a couple minutes late, it's really not that big of a deal.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it made for a good story because I'm imagining you driving to this meeting with a missing door going down the
Well,
road.
it was hanging. It was hanging. It didn't get totally ripped off. When I started to hear crunch, I did stop. I was like, what the heck was that? Oh,
Oh my gosh, yeah. I totally have had my share of
right.
bad moments where I'm like, "Oh, those little 5 seconds that can we just rewind it back for a little bit?" But you bring up a really good point, and I wonder, like, are the relationship between me and my daughters, I'm always like, that is way more important to me than being like, "You're always slow, you're always taking too long," and when my nervous system, because that's
Mhm.
what's happening, is getting out of control, it's like, why not just say, "Okay, you know what? We're gonna be late today," versus, "I'm gonna go down this whole rabbit hole. She's gonna bite back because she's in the preteen stages," and it's just why would I want to hurt our relationship over being late to school? It's just not worth it, right? So I think of that too. But yeah, and saving cars.
It's a very good point. I mean, I try to use like take it off of really me and say, the world does have a schedule. So
Yeah,
it's not just your schedule. We have to be in tune to wherever you're going, that affects other people.
that's so true.
So, but like you said, sometimes you just can't do it. But I think they need to know that they're not being late. It's not really affecting you. I mean, it is. We're all upset about it, but really in the
Mhm.
long run, it's because you're going to have to walk in late. You're going to have to get caught up. You're going to have to,
Yeah,
that sort. I do try to take that approach, but I think teens and preteens, they can't see that. I can't say I would have been able
yeah,
to see that either. I
yeah.
come from the other, I was always like afraid of being late and it would create a lot of anxiety
Right.
for me. So I kind of had to be like, it's not that big of a deal if you're late, right? Because
Yeah.
I'm now getting my nervous system. And then when I was with someone else and they were being late, and which was, I think God probably sent my husband to me because he like is fine with being late. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And he would be like, okay, we're gonna
Balance.
get there. And I think it kind of lessened me and hopefully I rubbed off and made him be on tune, but he just doesn't get upset
Right.
about saying he's rude late. There's people that are like a half an hour, 45 minutes late, which I think that's a whole nother thing. I think they're doing
Yeah.
that to control and there's other psychological things with that. But I'm talking like 5, 10 minutes late.
Yeah, yeah, definitely was me, and I think that's why I teach my kids the reverse because I know what that anxiety feels like,
Mhm,
where I'm always like, "You have to be on time, you have to be 5 minutes early," and that's not just childhood, but, like, the military where I was so
mhm.
s like, I would lose sleep to miss PT in the morning because we have to get up at 5 a.m. or whatever, like, you barely slept because 'cause you're like, "Ugh, I don't wanna miss that alarm," and I think I relax so much now because I'm like, "Well, let me undo what I had to go through, and I'm probably just having a reverse effect on them.
So
Uh,
were you like that before the military? Because that's interesting. Or was it like you used the word condition? Were you conditioned in the military?
yeah,
As a child, were you always like early and
yeah, I know my parents stress the importance of being on time, like, we weren't nearly as late as I am with my kids. So I know there were the seeds planted throughout childhood, and then it just got so exponentially worse in the
Mhm.
military because we have to get up super early, and they kept us late, especially in like boot camp basic, and they're like making sure you're never late or there will be consequences, and then you lose sleep so that you're tired, and it's just I think that made it so much worse. Where I was like, I learned then how to like heal all the anxiety and my nervous system and keep it calm and regulated. And those are just some of the outcomes of all of that. So,
Because I grew up in Virginia Beach, which is largely military, and to
yeah.
see, at the time, mostly the men, like, they would unfortunately bring a lot of that home, which was it was a big Navy town, and, I didn't come from a military family. I would see the transition because the mothers would be running the house one way, and then they would come in,
Mm,
like, say, a drill sergeant and be like, all of a sudden, the kids were supposed to snap into how, their
yes.
style of running the house, but also they were treating the children and applying that military style to, in their case, fathering. And it was really difficult on those kids, and it did create a strained relationship. It was already strained because the Navy, they're gone for like 6 months. So
Yeah.
that already strained the relationship. I really always felt very bad as families that it was so hard and they moved around. It was so hard on those kids.
Yeah.
Although it did teach them a lot of survival skills, it also had a lot of detrimental skills detriment to it as well.
Yeah.
But and then the fathers, they really couldn't see it. And it was this push me, pull me until they went away. And the kids were almost, it was very sad that they were almost relieved that the fathers were leaving
Mm, yeah.
because of that. And like I said, I think it was a combination. One, the mother had a different style, so it was confusing, the
Well, and then
different
she
style.
got relaxed with it while he was
Yeah,
gone. Like she was able to fully force live how she would want to with him gone, and the kids adapted to that. So then it's probably like
yeah,
shattering their lives
mhm,
when they come back and change. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I can't imagine. I can't imagine. Like, I was never full-time, and then once I started having kids is when I got out, so I was like, I could never be away from them for a full year. It would just I can't even my heart would just, like, break,
I
but
can't imagine either, and I mean, that I mean, I'm happy that they're doing that for their country, but I personally couldn't imagine it myself.
yeah, yeah, and my hat's off to them because I'm just like, "Wow, how do you do that?" Wow, it's
Mhm.
just incredible. And since we're talking about, like, childhood and younger years, let's get into what Lex's childhood looked like. It sounds like your dad kind of, I feel I think you mentioned putting the belief in you of what you could achieve. What did your childhood look like and those beliefs that you were raised on look like?
Well, my dad actually had a massive heart attack when I was pretty young, which left him brain damage, not completely brain damage, but he was disabled and he could no longer work. He had been a real estate developer
Wow.
and developed shopping centers. And so he no longer could work. So it was really kind of this flip from like pre that happening to post.
Yeah.
But one of which kind of gave me both sides of the coin. I think that
Oh,
it,
yeah.
it gave me a very beautiful from very young insight, a lot of life lessons. Obviously, as a child, I was very sad about it, but
Mhm.
it also gave me a different relationship with my dad because he was much more present because now he wasn't working all the time like the other fathers. He would go to the park and sit there and he'd meet me at the bus stop. And then he eventually, my parents got a divorce, and because of my mom, not my dad. And he would get me, go over to the neighborhood where I lived, and he had us every weekend. But more importantly, he very much, and this was before he had the heart attack as well,
Mhm.
but was like, you can do anything you want to do. And my mother was very supportive of that as well. They never were like, this is what you have to do, or you can't do that. And looking back, I thought that was normal, because as children, we only know what we know,
Yeah.
right? The most horrible thing that happened to us is the most horrible thing that's ever happened in the world when we're children. And we just
Mhm.
think that whatever's going on in our life, this is normal. So I didn't really know at the time that what a gift that was. I didn't realize that other kids' parents weren't like that. Some kids' parents were saying, you can't do that. They never said that. And as soon as I very early on wanted to be a lawyer, and I said, I want to be a lawyer, my father started calling me counselor, and they were very much supportive of that. And I've tried to instill that in my children as well. You can do whatever. But when I was growing up, it was much different. A lot of parents were not so much cheerleaders. I mean, they would
Yeah.
look at their kids and be like, "You can't do that. That's
Mhm.
ridiculous,"
Mhm.
And so a lot of my friends got that. But now, obviously, parenting has changed
Yeah.
tremendously for the better, I think,
Yeah.
and that is more of a norm, I believe.
Yeah. Wow, what a powerful story. And I love that your dad, he the thought of what you wanted to do and him constantly reinforcing that. And for me, I changed what I wanted to be when I grew up so many times. Did you ever feel like that's not what you wanted to do? You changed your mind, or you were full-fledged on this is what I'm going to be a lawyer?
Well, when I was 4, I wanted to be a model, which obviously it was kind of odd looking back at that too, because there weren't really models. Models became like a big thing like 10 years later, but like every picture I
Yeah.
but that quickly, no, I decided I wanted to be a lawyer when I was 9. I was watching this movie. It was an old movie. My dad was a big movie buff, so we'd watch movies and go to the movies a lot. And I was watching a movie. It was about first year law students, and I don't know, for some reason I was drawn to it.
Yeah.
And I just, after watching it, I was like, I want to be a lawyer, and that's what it was. So I really, and I'm a firm believer in this, that you need to know what you want to have that path to get there. And I think from a very early age was like, I had briefly lived when my father had the heart attack in Florida, and then I grew up in Virginia Beach, and I wanted to go back to Florida. I knew I wanted to be a lawyer. I knew that at the time, I thought 2 kids. I ended up having, more, but that was the vision. I knew that I wanted to be married to another lawyer, because I wanted us to have that kind of comma, be able to throw things around. I didn't know we were going to work together. That wasn't plotted out,
Yeah.
but I do know I wanted that commonality. And so I think I had that goal. And when things, whatever, because stuff happens in life, I was able to say, okay, I need to stay on this path. I need to put
100%.
blinders up, need to get to that goal. And I have to tell you, when I got to the goal after I got admitted and I was practicing, and I had started my own firm pretty quickly, a year out of law school, and then I went to work for someone else after that, because I went to work in New York doing acquisitions and mergers.
Okay.
But I like was like, oh my God, I hit this goal. Now what do I do?
Yeah, yeah.
I was like, what do I do? And I remember I was like really like having this, I don't know what you would label it, but, and I
Identity.
called another fellow attorney up, and I was like, I'm really kind of down. Like a friend of mine, I said, I'm
Mm.
kind of down. And he had graduated 2 years earlier than me. And he was like, and I'm like, this is not like me. Like I don't know what's going on. I don't know how to navigate this. And he started laughing on the phone. I was like, I'm like being so vulnerable to you right now. And he was like, everybody goes through this. He's like, you have been fighting for this goal, and you've been trying to get to it, and now you got to the goal, and you're
Mm.
kind of like, now what am I supposed to do? And I was like, exactly, you labeled it. What am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
And he was like, you just make a new plan, a new goal. That's all you do. It's that simple. And then he was like, I'm tired. I'm going to bed. And I was like, was so mad at first because I was like, I opened up and it was
Yeah.
vulnerable,
Yeah. Give me
and
more.
you were kind of like minimizing it. And then as I was laying there in bed going, what's my new plan? What am I going to do? Yada, yada, yada. And I was like, well, actually, it is that simple, right? Like,
Yeah.
it is that simple. Just make a new plan.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
So
So where did you go from there? What was the new plan?
the new plan was more kind of like, it was like basically a 5-year plan where you wanted to be, what you wanted to do. It was just another 5-year plan. Obviously, I had this plan since I was 9, and now I'm in my late 20s. So that was more like a much longer 5-year plan.
Yeah.
It's just a 5-year plan. And I am a believer and I know there are people, you're going to have listeners that don't like, to plan that, but I think the 5-year plan, it doesn't have to be this strict thing. You have to be able to move and pivot, and stuff
Yeah,
comes that,
for
could
sure.
be delayed. But I think that if you have a plan, when those times um get difficult or stressful, or you have something like the death of a parent, something
Yeah.
major, life,
Yeah.
financial destruction, whatever it is, a major like divorce, life altering thing, that you can kind of revert back to that
Mm.
as a fall. Okay, this is the plan. So yeah, there was a roadblock. Now, how
Yeah,
am I going to maneuver around the roadblock and still get to the plan? And it gives
I
you
love
kind of a
that.
focus. And
Yes.
then I think that's important, because I think when people are in, and you could speak better to this, or have those major life, just horrible moments,
Mm.
death, divorce, financial destruction, that I think that they get lost, right? They
Yeah,
get
for
they don't know what to do next. They don't know where to go. And if you can be like, okay, I made that plan 4 years ago. I'm just going to stay focused on that.
Yeah.
And I think it does help give some center.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And it also applies for the entrepreneurs who are like kind of lost in which route they want to go. Do I want to do this? Do I want to do this? And for me, for the longest time, I was like chasing shiny object syndrome and oh, everybody's doing this. And I watch a video and I'm like, that's a great idea. Let me go this route. And I feel like if we can decide, make the decision of no, this is what we're going to do, we're going to focus on, like you said, 5 years, or maybe you just make it a 2-year plan. Like, no, for the next 2 years, I'm going to I like to say become obsessed, because I feel like when you're obsessed with something, you're going to constantly be focused on it. And also when things come up, if it's not that important, you can just kind of push it away and you're super obsessed and focused on the one thing that's the book, the one thing. I don't know if you've read that, but that's a really great book where it teaches just different methods and ways of staying focused when life smacks you in the face. Like you said, for me, I had divorce, I had debt, I have abusive, traumatic relationship. But 6 years out of it, being a single mom of four, I've created like a beautiful life that's the reason for the podcast, is to show women what really is available to anyone, no matter where you are at in life. And everybody's life experiences are different, but at the end of the day, we're all just people, humans on earth, and no one is more special than the other. And it's available to everyone. So
You just brought up a very good point. No one's experiences are the same, but that also gives you a very great, whatever that experience is, a great bounce off for a business, because they're not the same, but people have had similar experiences. And when you're going through that, I'm sure whatever that trauma is, you're sitting in that moment going, well, if I had this, or if this happened, or whatever. And you really should grab onto that, because I am sure there are other people that were suffering through that same experience and were thinking the same way. And there may not be a business that's providing that, right? So the first thing in making a business is, what problem can I solve?
mm,
So, you grab onto that. I have a friend who was going through breast cancer, and she had the really bad one, and then it came back, and she called me up and was like, I want to start this business. to sell like a kit. So people aren't struggling, like when you go through chemotherapy for breast cancer, what are the things that you need? The doctors don't really tell you. You kind of find what is the product is the best and what is this, and a whole kit that would have like soothing cream and various things in it that somebody could more like do a subscription and buy this while during the time they were going through chemo. And it was because she was sitting there sick as a dog and like, well, what I've now bought like 8 different creams for the excessive dry skin or whatever it is. And so I think you really, when you get out of that immediate survival mode, to sit down and jot down, oh, well, this would have made this experience slightly easier. That could be a business. That legitimately could be a business because you have that experience. You also have the ability to communicate with your audience, your clients, as to what, as to what the need is. You can relate to them.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And that's much of my journey as well with so my children are curly hair kiddos and my hair is relatively straight. So super similar. I would coach parents on how to care for their mixed children's curly hair and wrote a book and had coaching and classes and how to braid, all of these different things. And that was experience for my story. So you're absolutely right. What problem can people solve? And that is one of the first steps to creating a business, right? What other tips for women, mom who feel this entrepreneur pull to them? What other tips or advice would you share with them?
So a lot of times on social media, I hear, especially from moms, who want to start a business or even are just moms, and that's their full-time job at that moment in their life, that they feel isolation. And
Mm,
I think the key, and men have been doing this for years. We just didn't put a label on it. They were going, back in, I'm sure everybody heard in the 80s, they would do the 2 martini lunch. They were going out to happy hour. They were going, we didn't necessarily label it at the time back then, I don't know, as networking, but that's what they were doing. They were creating a group of people, a support system, that
mm,
they were vacation, they were going fishing, they were going golfing together. They were creating that, what I like to call the tribe, of people. They were creating that they're golfing, but they're really bouncing ideas off each other. They're
yeah.
really complaining about whatever is happening, having to do with work, to get ideas, not just to complain, but to get ideas. They're building those relationships to form opportunities for them in their careers. And I think because like you said, whether it's society, whether it's just our brains are wired differently, we, for whatever reason, tend to multitask. And I think that because of that, a lot of times women really are missing. And there's a shift in this, a conscious shift in it, but they're missing. You have to have that networking. You
Yeah.
have to go out. And I'm going to tell, my stepson, he ended up marrying someone. She did not come from a family of entrepreneurs. She was the first person to go to college in her family. And we ended up giving him a business to start. And I was trying to have a conversation with her that you're getting mad at him going out because you're seeing it as going out, but it's really not. He's going out with other lawyers to build those connections and other business owners, and clients, to build connections. They're not just out having dinner together and you're being excluded. They're building a connection. And I think women, we have to make time no matter what stage we're at, because even if you're a stay-at-home mom, you can't just stay home and do that and talk to a 2 or 3 year old.
Yeah.
You need to have people you can call and be like, hi. And I belong to a mastermind group. We go and it's like, okay, what problem do you have? And
Yeah.
there's plenty of times that I have a team of people. I have a whole team of people working on solving a problem having to do with my business. And and they'll be working on it for a week or 2 weeks, and they'll have different ideas, but none of them are necessarily like firing off. And I will throw it out in this mastermind group. And within 3 minutes, they're like,
Oh
well,
my.
I've gone through this problem already. This
Yeah.
is who you need to call. This is how you need to handle the
Um,
problem. 3 minutes. And I think everybody needs that group. And this gets back to what I said before. Whatever group you form, first of all, I think if you want to go in and you want to form a business, join a group, a networking group.
Yes.
If you want to do a specific type of business, join a group specific to that. At least one, because you could join a lot. I had to, my paralegal went in, and at the beginning of the year, she's like, "Oh, this is too much," and she starts striking them off for me, and she's like, "You really should like cut these out." So you could do what you need to do, but you could join one that meets once a month, and you carve that out for yourself to build that group of women, that or men, group of people. But that
Yeah.
is so important. You cannot isolate yourself. And you need people to help you in this journey. And a lot of times people are most people, and if they're not, then get them out of your circle, are
Yeah.
very to help you. Like, I went to lunch with someone and I was like, "Hey, do you know anybody that could help me with this issue?" And they were like, "Sure. Do you know somebody that can help me with these issues?" And then we just solve those problems for each other,
Wow.
having lunch together. And
Wow.
that's important. You don't isolate yourself and think I can do this all alone. Nobody has ever in the whole entire time created something major all by themselves. It
Yeah.
hasn't happened. You
Yeah.
need a group of people to help.
Yeah, I totally agree. I've noticed that too. And for women in general, like when we do go out or do get a drink, and I'm guilty of this as well. We often just start talking about the kids and family life, and men go in, and it might not even be intentional. It's just they start creating deals and creating business ideas. And like you said, problem solving. I have this issue. And maybe for women, it's more difficult because it's hard to be vulnerable. We don't want to be judged. We don't want to say we don't have control of our household. Can somebody help me? And back in the day, I really believe in like this concept of a village, and you have to have other people to lean on. And let's be honest, being lonely will kill you. Like literally as humans, you have to have other humans to be able to survive. And when I worked for Centers for Medicare and Medicaid, I remember something coming across my desk not long after COVID had begun. A new epidemic was actually loneliness, which even enforces even more the importance of getting in some kind of network, something that people are doing the same things. And I
Mhm.
always say, look for someone who is a step ahead of you. So if you're looking to create a business, look for people that, like you said, in that niche or in that area that you're looking to grow in. And as long as they're one step ahead, they can guide you along the way. Especially women, we love just helping each other. It's hard to ask for help sometimes, but when you get the opportunity to help somebody, it's just very fulfilling for me, especially. And I see that with other women. They love helping each other out and growing together and having that circle. So I completely, and the masterminds I have been in, I have grown tremendously. I can't say enough good things about how it's helped me get to my goals and where I've been as well.
To circle back on that, I think that also women and men do this a lot less as well. And we're kind of stereotyping. I don't want necessarily do that, but I'm just saying trends.
Yes.
I think women, we especially older friends, right? You can I mean, I'm going to throw it out there. You can outgrow people. You can
Wow.
outgrow friends. And there is plenty of, I'm not super close, and I'm not saying if you are, it's a bad thing, but you can not be in the same space as someone you're really good friends at a different stage in your life. And that's okay. That doesn't mean you need to be mean to them. That doesn't mean you need to cut them out of your life, but it's okay that there's that distance. As well as you have to let go. If you have a quote unquote friend, and they're not your cheerleader. And I
Mhm.
had this conversation with my young daughters. I'm like, that's not a friend, because if
Yeah.
they're making you feel bad or tearing you down or telling you that your idea for a business is stupid, now saying, listen, logistics, you need to work on the logistics. I'm not talking about that.
Right,
I'm
right.
not talking, okay, well, maybe you need to focus here. Maybe you need to do a little more research there. Constructive criticism, I think that's good, because you need honest friends too. You don't
Yeah.
want surround yourself by yes people. But I
Right.
think people that are tearing you down because they haven't insecurities or they're not feeling good about yours, you
Mhm.
need to get them out of your life. Because if they are constantly saying, oh, that's a dumb idea, that's a dumb idea, or, and not giving you some sort of suggestion, then they're not doing anything for you. And what I say to my staff is like, do not come to me with a problem unless you have at least one suggestion for a solution. Because if you're coming to me with just a problem, that's you venting.
Yeah.
And I don't have space for that. If you're coming to me and saying this is a problem and here are at least one solution, then that's a proper. And also don't use your friends as your therapist. It's
Yeah.
one thing to say, listen, I had this fight with my husband and he like didn't pick up his socks and he's driving me crazy. End of discussion.
Mhm.
Do not, because nobody wants to have that in their life. If you feel that every time you're sitting down with your friends or you have a friend that's doing this, they need a therapist. They
Yeah.
don't need a friend.
Yeah.
And you need to be like, I'm your friend. I want to be your friend, but this isn't outside of the scope of my friendship,
Yeah.
that you really need to go talk to a therapist.
Yeah, yeah. I I have seen it play out in my life as well, and it's a challenge because I'm like, I don't wanna hurt anybody's feelings, and I don't want to make it seem like I don't like them, or especially for me who is like, I'm always working on personal growth, I'm always elevating different areas of my life. And I don't want it to make it seem like, "Oh, I'm better than you all of a sudden," because that's never my intention. But you do outgrow different seasons, and maybe it's society's pressure of, like, trying to fit in with everyone, and you don't wanna look like that you're not the norm, or now I'm more bold with, like, my opinions, and I don't care as much as what people think as I did before. But I've definitely outgrown plenty of different friend groups. Even I mean, becoming a mom specifically, like, you kind of just naturally lose the friends that don't have kids anymore, and you end up in mom groups and play dates. And even more recently, like, my kids are getting older, so I'm kind of shifting away from the little kid play dates where those adults are still having kids and I'm not. I'm like, I'm more free. I could leave the house and get out and do the things that I need to do. I don't have to hire the babysitter anymore.
Wasn't that beautiful when
My God, it was like, wait,
was it? I remember the moment. There were two major moments. One, no more diapers because they were so expensive. And two was that moment you were like, I could go to the grocery store for an hour
yes,
and not have to hire a babysitter, arrange
yes.
for them to come. It was, I feel like it was like life changing.
Oh my gosh, it felt like when I got my license to drive, I'm like, "Whoa, the open road, it's so freeing." And I feel like, when we look back, we have to realize, like, all of these things in life are temporary. When you're having babies and changing diapers and running around and can't leave the house, you feel like this is it. This is life. This is what it looks like. But in the big scheme of things, it's so temporary. Now I look back and I'm like, wow, I did it. Like, I actually did it. I never saw that this was going to be my future. And then really when you think about it, it went by so quickly. Like, oh, it's done. It's not for me. It's not coming back.
It is a sadness about that too, but I also think
Yeah.
the beauty of when you're in chaos, like real chaos, like, being a young mother or you go through this, you don't, and which is lucky, as bad as you think it is, you don't realize the totality of the chaos until you're removed from it. Like it's kind of like a bad relationship. You're in a bad relationship and you're like, oh, this is a bad relationship. I know and am aware this is a bad relationship. But then it's like 2 years later, you're like, it was a really bad relationship. It doesn't get softer where you're like, oh, distance has made it not seem so bad. It's almost like the realization once you're out of it, like that was worse than I thought it was. I feel like being a young mom was in the sense similar that you're like, you're in it and I remember Goldie Hawn made this statement and she was like, she said, they asked her about motherhood and she was like, oh, I really do like being a mother, but I enjoy it so much better now that they're older. And I, at the time, had young kids. And I was like, why is that? They're so cute. They're doing the cutest thing ever.
Yeah.
They're adorable. And that is when you get all the good pictures, right?
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and excitement of the holidays and all that. And I was like, she's crazy. Like, why would she say that? I was kind of mad at her about it.
Oh,
And then now that I'm at it, I'm like, I get it. I so don't get it.
Yeah, or like my 7-year-old, she'll still come up to me and crawl on me and let me hold her. And I look at the older ones and I'm like, they will never do that. They'll never do that again. They are past
Wow.
the stage where they crawl onto mom's lap and hug her and hold her. And it's kind of heartbreaking. So my
Yeah.
10-year-old, I'm like, you're going to be 8 soon. Did they stop at 8? Did they stop at 8.5? Are you going to
Yeah.
stop sooner? Like, wait, when is this last like little juicy hug from my little baby cake's gonna be? It's like you said, it can be so sad. And I know I've got other chapters to go through and
Say like now, because I just entered like the middle school with them and I've gone through the different stages with the
yeah,
older ones. It's a different, it's a different relationship. I mean, like I thought my favorite age across the board was 4, and people would say why. And I said, because they're still, like you said, cuddly and
yeah,
need you, but they have their own personality and they're a little slightly, I don't want to say independent, but you know what I'm saying. They're
yeah, like
slightly independent and you can have
they both
that.
do.
So you got the balance of both. But as they get older and that relationship season changes, there's so many beautiful things as well that you have. It's just the cuteness factor is definitely gone.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like you rolling your eyes, that's not that cute anymore. Um, let's get back into the business aspect with your daughters. What does that look like when you're passing it down? Do you want them to be business owners? Do you care if they work the 9 to 5? What does that kind of look for you and your family?
So I think being an entrepreneur is very beneficial because it gives you control over your own schedule. Now that being said, I somebody once said to me, but it sounds like you actually work more hours than 9 to 5. And
Mhm.
that is the case. But the difference is I have control. So if I want to go to a school show or they want to take, the day off and I don't know, go to the beach,
Yeah.
I can experience that with them. I don't have to submit and put in time. So yes, I'm probably working more hours than if somebody was doing their 9 to 5, but I had the flexibility to be able to do that. And so I would very much like them to start there. I think they all want to be lawyers. The 2 older ones are lawyers. My son that's in college now, his intention is to go to law school. The 2 younger ones, it can change. And I think being a lawyer is beneficial, even if you don't want to practice law, because it gives you that knowledge about contracts and different
Oh,
things and
true.
that ability. So I think if you have the ability to do it and you have a passion for it, then I always recommend, and I think I am up to like 5 people, women who have worked for me that ended up going to law school after being my legal assistant. And because I do promote it. I also think it is important that they do have some sort of career. And I'm not slighting stay-at-home moms at all. I personally couldn't do it. I
Yeah.
remember after my son was born, my husband automatically assumed that I was going to want to stay home at least for a year. And 2 weeks, and I kept saying, I don't know, maybe. And 2 weeks in, I was like, I can't do this. I can't. So, that being able to do that is such, and I had a lot of guilt about that, but I just knew in me, I could not stay home,
Yeah.
and be a stay-at-home mom. And also I hate cooking and I can't stand cleaning. And so that none of that worked for me. But I think that it is good to have the fallback because as you have many listeners who have gone through a divorce, I think they get in financial situations and they almost have to rebuild their lives financially, not just emotionally.
Yeah.
And my bonus daughter, she'd gone to school for classic dance, ballet,
Mm.
and was engaged or dating someone, her now husband. And after she graduated, I said, "What's the plan? What is your plan?" And I said, "Because you're teaching ballet to 4-year-olds. You didn't go to Juilliard. She went to another good dance program, but being a professional ballerina is hard." And I said, "What is the long-term plan?" And she said, "Oh, well, I'm going to teach this ballet, and the plan is I'm going to marry her now husband, who's a plastic surgeon." And I said, I'm going to be blunt. I'm concerned about this plan.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she was like,
Your
"Why are
perspective.
you concerned about this plan?" I said, "Because there's divorces are 50%.
Mhm.
And I said, and I don't want you to be 40 years old with 2 kids and that happen. Even though that obviously you don't go into a marriage thinking it's going to happen. I'm just giving you statistics.
Yeah.
And I think that we need to have another plan on how if this, and I hope it never goes south. And he's a wonderful guy and we all adore him. But for whatever reason, if it goes south, and this was before they got married, obviously, that we should have some other plan and you making whatever, teaching 2-year-olds how to do ballet. I don't think you could support a family. Now, her response was pretty funny. She was like, well, you're an attorney, you'll represent me and you'll get a lot of money. And I said, well, the problem is I don't do family law. But I still think for you personally, you need to have something that if something bad goes wrong, that a contingency. And she ended up going, she's very smart. She ended up going to Georgetown Law and got a law degree. Now she may, and is licensed in multiple states. But she made when the kids are really young right now, that she wanted to pull back and didn't want to work full time, and she called me up and she was like, is that damaging to my career? And I was like, no, if you keep your toe in,
Yeah.
you
Right.
can take the time, to do this at this stage in your life. And then when they get to when they start school, then you can jump back in.
Yeah.
I'm
Right.
like, but because you set that up for yourself, you've
Yeah.
set up that option and you need to give yourself options. Women, I feel like men are always like instinctually their brain is, okay, well, I have this opportunity and that opportunity. And I
Mhm.
think we compartmentalize. We're like, okay, well, I'm focusing on this aspect of timing
Yeah.
of my life and not saying, okay, well, I need to put that foundation for these other options,
Yeah.
because for instance, the simplest is getting a college degree before you start having a family or have a family and be getting a college degree. Maybe you'll never need to go work, right?
Right.
Maybe
No.
you'll never want to go work. Maybe you'll have that ability. But then if you decide, you know what, I'm bored with my life. I can't play tennis anymore every day.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
want to do something.
You
You
have
have that foundation that you're not starting from the start line. You have the foundation, you're already starting from the middle. And that's the same thing with building a business. Well, let's say you're a stay-at-home mom and you're like, oh, this would be a good. Write it down. All you got to do is start a
yeah.
pad.
Yeah.
Write down these ideas. You don't have to do anything with them. But then
Mhm.
when you get to a point where you're like, I kind of am not satisfied with where my life right now. I'm bored. I need something more for myself.
Yeah.
You can go back to that pad and be like, oh my God, I had all these great ideas I had forgotten about.
Yeah.
And now I can just pick one and run with it. And,
Yeah.
and that's the key. Don't corner yourself. There's so many little things along the way that you don't have to start a whole new business tomorrow. Let's
Mhm.
start with the little steps of
Yeah.
just brainstorming. What do you like? What are you interested in? What problems do you think you can solve? And write it down. Just write it down and go back to it when you're in that space.
Yeah. Yeah. Such a good point. I love that you set her up for success. You never know what's going to happen. And she's at least got like that foundation to fall back on. I love the idea of having kind of like a success plan or even ideas. Just
I
kind of,
like that, a success plan. I'm gonna
yeah,
have to steal that list.
scratch it down.
I'm writing that down and
Yeah,
stealing
put
it.
it on a wall and have a whole list. I'm gonna have each of my girls have one. Like, this is what I ideas of where I could take off. So good. And we will have this episode out before Lex and I are gonna be doing a workshop. And we're super excited for that. We're gonna be giving all of the details about business and women entrepreneurs. And is there anything you want to say to get them excited about that, Lex?
Super excited about it. It is going to be totally different from this podcast. So we do hope you join it. It is going to give practical information. Liz always gives great information, but since I don't know most of your listeners, I'm going to be providing you with like practical information. If you already have a business, just started a business, want to start a business from the legal standpoint, what are the legal pitfalls that you need to be aware of? Because if you're not aware of the problem, you can't fix it or prevent it generally most times. So it's a do it yourself that I'm going to say here are some things you need to be aware of. Here are some tips for you to go into your business or think about, and some real practical tips that I hope everybody will find useful.
Yes, it's gonna be super fantastic. I'm so thrilled for this one. We need to protect ourselves in our businesses. It's not something like that comes to mind, right? When you're starting a business, you've got ideas and nobody's taught us the legalities of what we need to look out for. So it's a super must attend workshop. I'll make sure to put the details and follow Liz Rankin Elevates on Instagram to make sure you've got all the information for all the workshops we have upcoming. And Lex, where can they find you?
You can find me pretty much on all the social media, YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram, Facebook at Litigation Lex.
Oh, I love it. This has been such a powerful episode, and I thank you for the beautiful conversation and the vulnerability. I always ask the guest of She Elevates podcast if there's one final message you want to leave the listeners with. What is that one thing?
Go find your tribe. You don't have to do it alone.
So good. Community is everything. You will soar. You will reach all of your goals. And for me, I've reached goals that I did not even expect to reach in different communities and masterminds and things like that. It's just making life so much more beautiful. It's our true village, right? Finding our true village in life. So, and Lex, you are a part of mine now. I'm super thrilled that we had been having conversations for what seems like months now. And I'm so grateful for you to be on the episode on the podcast. So thank you so much for sharing everything with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. And if any of your listeners want to reach out, I'm happy to invite them into my tribe as well.
Love it. I love it. All right. We'll be sure to include all of Lex's details in the show notes. Thank you all for watching. I created something powerful for the woman who's tired of playing small. If you're done surviving and you're ready to rise, this is for you. It's called the She Elevates Blueprint, a 7-day transformational guide to help you reclaim your power, reset your mindset, and redesign your life from the inside out. We're talking confidence, clarity, boundaries, money, love, healing, purpose, every area of your life. Each day, you'll get a journal prompt, an aligned action, an affirmation, and a voice note from me, yours truly. So it feels like I'm right there cheering you on. You're going to feel seen. You're going to feel grounded. And by day 7, you won't even recognize you. If you've been waiting for a sign to elevate your life, this is it. Tap the link, download your free copy of the She Elevates Blueprint, and let's step into your next level together. You're not alone. You're not broken. You're becoming. Let's rise, my queen. Thank you for tuning in to the She Elevates podcast. I hope today's episode poured into you, reminded you of your power, and gave you something to take with you on this journey of elevation. Share it with a friend, your sister, your tribe, because when one of us rises, we all rise. Make sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if you're feeling generous, leave a review. It helps more women find this movement and step into their highest self. Want more? Come hang with me over on Instagram at Liz Rankin Elevates, or join our free She Elevates community on Facebook, where we heal, grow, and glow together. Until next time, remember this: you're not behind, you're not broken, you're becoming. Keep rising, queen. Your next level is already calling.